You are listening to the Apex Nutrition Podcast on Mountain Bike Radio. Welcome back, listeners, to a new episode of the Apex Nutrition Podcast. It is 2018. We are on the 18th year of the Apex. No, not 18th, is it? It's like 5th year of the Apex Nutrition Podcast?
Yeah, maybe 6th. Yeah, I bet.
Okay. Listeners, this episode, this episode, we are going to not review, but it's the best of 2017 and how to make your 2018 your best year ever. I just added that for clickbait. So we're not going to talk about best year ever bullshit, basically. We're going to do a little quick recap of 2017, a couple of the hot topics, I guess. Yeah. And then answer a few listener questions. So if you have any listeners, if you have any questions, you can email me, ben@mountainbikeradio.com. That's ben@mountainbikeradio.com. In case you don't hear it enough on all the different shows and me talking. If you have any specific questions for Kelli, it's Kelli at apexnutritionllc.com. And you can find her, since I know we're going to have some people that are just tuning in for the first time, from Spotify, possibly, because we are now on Spotify. So if you had the Spotify app, type in Mountain Bike Radio and you'll find it over there. I know some people are listening already because I can see the stats. So we're getting some new listeners from there. So if you're just tuning in for the first time to the Apex Nutrition Podcast, there is a wealth of knowledge. If you go to mountainbikeradio.com and there at the top, there is a little, whatever you call those, I don't even know what you call them, listen tab. Go there, click on
a menu.
That's
a navigation menu.
Yes, navigation menu. That's what I was trying to think of, and I was just trying to fill space by talking, which probably pisses people off. But if you go to listen and you click on Apex Nutrition Podcast, it will take you to the homepage of the Apex Nutrition Podcast, and you can scroll through a bunch of episodes there. I redid the website a couple years ago, so there's a limited number on there, but there's an archive there. And if you go to the Mountain Bike Radio app on any of your platforms, type in Mountain Bike Radio, download the app, and go to the search box, type in Apex or Apex Nutrition or Apex Nutrition Podcast. It will bring up every episode that we've done. So if you like what you hear, go through and listen to all the back episodes, get yourself up to speed. And if you don't like what you hear, bye-bye. Is that good? I just want to get that
Kelli
in there because it's the beginning. Yeah.
At best life ever.
Exactly. Best life ever. Type that in. It's the beginning of the year. I know new people are going to be checking it out, and I wanted to kind of bring people up to speed. So, all right, Kelli. So what do we have going for this episode?
Yeah, so I did ask for listener questions on Facebook, and we got quite a few, but we're going to do some highlights of 2017 first. And really, I looked back through our 2017 content, and there were definitely a couple themes going on, one that I didn't ask for and another that I kind of did. So the one I didn't ask for was almost exactly a year ago. I was backcountry skiing above Vail. And I made a turn and I tore both my ACL and my MCL. So sorry for all you dedicated listeners who've heard this story way too much. That's all I will talk about there. But so one theme of 2017 was about joint health and surgery recovery and muscle activation to help your joints. We actually had a question about this, so I'll come back to some of those in a minute. But that was definitely a theme. And if you are interested in proactively keeping your joints healthy as you age, then we tried to make all of those podcasts applicable to you too, because I know not everyone was having surgery, but I certainly was. So we talked about those things. And like I said, it included muscle, strength training and muscle activation and development, because that's kind of what we can do to keep our joints healthy. You can't do too much to strengthen your joints themselves, but you can certainly improve your muscles and how they support your joints. So that was definitely one theme as we went. The other theme.
How are you now?
I'm good. I'm skiing again, which was huge. Mentally, that was a huge thing because, it's not like I could sell my skis. They were expensive, the ones that I did this in. And so the first time getting back on the slopes was crazy. I was, I think I said to a few people, I've never been so mindful on easy like groomers. Mostly I backcountry ski. So, when you go on groomers, you can just kind of fly down them. But oh my gosh, so mindful. Every turn was like, engage your quads, Kelli. I didn't want, it wasn't that I felt like my new ACL, which used to be my quad tendon. It wasn't that I didn't think that it could hold up to any pressure or force. It was that I didn't want to take some stupid fall, catch an edge, and then my leg flop all around. That's what I'm most afraid of with my knee. It's just, one stupid thing where you've got a ski on your foot. It just kind of goes all different directions. So every turn is very mindful. Like you're not going to fall on this turn, and so that's been the thing. It's lessened as I've probably been, I ski a lot. I ski about 3 times a week. Or 4. And it's not because I don't have a job, for anyone who's thinking that. This is before, it's an early morning before work. I'm usually home by 7:30.
And you live next to skiing.
I have a sweet bike set up on my old stump jumper where I put a big PVC pipe on it and my skis fit in there and I can ride my bike for 5 minutes to get over there early in the morning. So that's kind of where I am there. I ended the summer doing all the biking I wanted to do. Maybe not the distance. I hadn't really worked back up to the timer distance, but 3-hour rides somewhere in there, going as strong and fast as ever I did before, feeling very comfortable, still not wanting to take falls, but feeling comfortable. And then I was also able to kind of I think my long run was around 9 miles, on trail. So that was good too. And the bigger deal for that wasn't the length was that I got to the place where I could put my foot down in front of the other without thinking like, oh my gosh, is there a rock? How's my foot landing? Am I stepping weird? I got to where I wasn't having a limp and my stride was right. So yeah, lots of work and basically back to where I want to be. The only thing left I would say is, I'm continuing to work on, just flexibility and how it feels day to day, but also I want to get back into the backcountry skiing. So that takes strength when you're not on a surface that's consistent and you don't really know what's under you. It could be a different type of snow, crusty snow or really deep powder. So that's going to be, I'll be excited if I get to do that this year. So yeah, that's where I am. So anyway, lots of podcasting about that. And then the other big theme was Ben and I really wanted to take a focus on overall everyday person, everyday athlete health and wellness, not just training nutrition, although that will always still be a part of this podcast. As I share, supplements and different things that help us train well, but really just everyday health and keeping athletes healthy and bodies healthy and aging well and that sort of thing. So we kind of ended the year with a podcast on brain health, which was really fun. It really stretched me to research it and to kind of start thinking about it. And I really enjoyed doing that one. I got a lot of good feedback back on that podcast.
I'm excited about the brain health thing going forward into 2018.
Me too.
It's just something that I think at the end of 2018 or 2019, whatever, like everyone's talking about Bitcoin right now or like low carb right now. Like if you get into a discussion with somebody, just general public, it goes to whatever the topic is, right? And I think 2000, whatever, if we're doing this a year from now or 2 years from now, I think the discussion won't be as much like keto. It'll be more of brain things that we didn't know and that we're doing that have become mainstream.
Yeah.
So for a while, there was brain games and stuff. That was just the beginning.
Yeah, tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And, I would love...
I'm excited about that.
In December 2018, by then, hopefully we've gone through at least like 4 or 5 body systems, spine health. And, we could definitely go more in depth on joint health, skin and hair health, eye health. Like there's so many things that, as athletes and just as people that we can do to kind of keep ourselves healthy. And a lot of times the funny thing is they're going to be the same thing over and over and over, sleep and flexibility and working on things like that. It's not going to be new things all the time, but a different way to think about it maybe. And so I'm hoping cardiovascular health, respiratory health, there's a lot of things we can talk about as athletes. Because I know we said it in the brain health, I'm not getting any younger, neither is Ben. And, but the thing is if you proactively work on wellness and health, there are so many benefits to it, things that you don't even see, but just your body and your life feels better. So yeah, I'm excited about that because we'll always talk about sports nutrition, but there's only so many ways to say it, you know? But overall health, that's something to keep talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So
what else?
The other big deal in 2017 is I discovered a sweet little kitchen gadget called the Instant Pot. And I was somewhat late to the game, and then Ben was right there with me. And basically, this is an electric pressure cooker that, unlike the pressure cookers of old that sat on the stovetop and, you know, rattled and steamed and did all this stuff, these ones are
and were dangerous.
And scary. They probably were. I wonder what the stats are. Like, did anyone really hurt themselves with those? They're scary.
Oh, I heard of this one guy. Who no. It was I guess not dangerous, but a pain in the ass. How's that?
Okay, I thought you were going to say like blew up on his, like the thing blew off or something at the top.
No, I'm just making shit up.
Yeah, okay. They're scary. I remember my mom had one and it rattled and it scared me and steam came out, you know, and all of that. But these are so simple. They're like working a slow cooker or a crock pot, but better because there's all these functions you can do. You know, cook your dinner very quickly because of the pressure, obviously. They're just fun and they make dinner easy. And I probably use it 4 to 5 times a week, in addition to making my yogurt in it. And now I baked. So now that I live at 9,000 feet, for some reason, I couldn't bake a potato to save me this last 6 months. I don't have baked potatoes that often, but when we have one, I want it to be good, right? I don't know what it is. I think it's the altitude. Once I tried baking them for like 4 hours and they were still hard. I couldn't do it. I don't know what my problem is. I asked my grandma.
Does your oven work?
My oven works. Yep. I bake cookies, all, you know, whatever else I'm baking, fine. My grandma, she was born and raised and lived on a cattle ranch at about 9,000 feet. So the last time I saw her, and she just knows everything. She's one of those grandmas. She's awesome. Asked her, I was like, Grandma, I can't bake a potato to save me. And, you know, she didn't know. So anyway, I can bake a potato in like 10 minutes flat in my pressure cooker and they're awesome. So they're just amazing. Like you can do all these different things. I hard boil eggs in there. That takes about 15 minutes and you can do like 18 at a time, which is great for my family. I make yogurt in there and it's like complete no-brainer yogurt maker. And I can do the whole gallon of milk at once when I make it. Just all these things. And if you've never heard of an Instant Pot, there's like a cult following. And probably the reason why that was a popular one was because I put hashtag Instant Pot and that goes to all kinds of people with all the cult following. Yeah. But all kinds of people listening already knew, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. They were like,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about the yogurt?
Yeah.
Do you have a different seal that you put on for different food just to keep it? Because what I've found, and it's kind of annoying, is that
there's a taste.
Like even though washing there's a taste.
Yeah.
Do you have a different seal that you put on?
I don't. I try to make sure I rinse it off and wash it good before that. But yeah, the yogurt, it's funny. It doesn't really bother me, but yeah, there's like a little bit of a spice or something to it.
Yeah, like when you I don't like my yogurt to taste like cumin.
Like curry. Yeah. I know.
Well, cumin and curry and what's another strong one? Like chili.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that. No. And mine's the same. I don't think
I'll try a different seal.
Yeah, and there's probably something out there. I haven't, I've thought of it, but I haven't actually researched that. But yeah, same thing with the hard-boiled eggs will have a little bit of it, which it's fine on those because it tastes good. But you can smell it more than taste it, maybe. But yeah, it's hard to get that seal completely flavor-free. So.
Yeah. So I had another listener who recommended getting extra seals, and I just haven't yet. So I'm going to buy a couple. You can just get them on Amazon. They're like $3-4 a piece or something like that. You can just plop them on.
That goes around the rubber seal.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And they have different colors, so you can keep them separate. So you can have like a yogurt seal.
Yeah. Awesome. It's when you're super geeking out on the Instant Pot. It's when you have different seals.
Yeah. And listeners, here's what you can do. If you plan on getting one of those Instant Pots, which many people have, my brother actually got one. We just used it the other day when we were there. Go in the show notes and click on the link because that is an affiliate link to Amazon. And It doesn't cost you any extra, so you do your regular shopping, but this is a good way to support Mountain Bike Radio with no extra money out of your pocket. So click on that little link, buy your Instant Pot, and buy like 1,000 other things, preferably like $5,000 worth. But just do your regular shopping, and since we sent you over there for that, we will get a small cut of, they will kick back some money to us. So that helps all this keep going. Otherwise, I won't actually have food to put in the Instant Pot, which is a problem.
Rice cooker all day long, every day. That's all you're going to be eating.
Yeah, rice and beans. Yeah, exactly.
And I do affiliate links too, but I'll just say that that is just for things I've always recommended or would recommend anyway, just so people can trust that. Hopefully, we've been doing this for so long that hopefully you never think that I'm like creating things for you to buy, because I wouldn't do that.
I hate that shit.
Me too.
I don't do that.
No clickbait, no crazy buy this when you don't need it. Okay. So so a few listener questions. I'm going to start with the one that we got via email. And let me get there.
From Larry?
From Larry. So thanks, Larry, for sending this in. And basically he was talking about, we had done something on breakfasts. It was a podcast about easy breakfasts and kind of getting out the door. And I think it was towards the beginning of the school year, probably, because that's when breakfast always becomes like, how do I get all these people some breakfast before, they have to run for the bus, whatever. So he was saying a few things. He says he works out early in the morning, fasted, and he's not hungry. And his workouts are fine. 2 hours a day, longer stuff on the weekend, biking and running mostly. I had talked about during that I thought that breakfast was important, a small amount of fuel before you go if you're pushing your performance because you've fasted all night. And also a lot of times if it's just like a day-to-day thing and you're not hungry for breakfast, often you're overeating at dinner. Larry was saying, you know what, I'm not overeating at dinner. He's got a great weight for his height, consistent. He doesn't eat after 7:00 at night. So I would say for this one, that, on an individual basis, some people just aren't hungry for breakfast. And I think it's okay. I wasn't saying this to say that, anything horrible is going to happen if you don't want or eat breakfast. There is some study out there that are showing that there can be altered glucose metabolism the longer you wait to eat in the mornings. And this has to do with circadian rhythms in that your hormones are set up to metabolize foods during the day and then not while you're supposed to be sleeping when the sun is down, because all that's connected, to the 24-hour clock in the day and all of that sort of thing. But on an individual basis, if you're not eating all night and snacking at midnight and then you're, it's all right. That's okay. The thing with fasting before workouts, a lot of really well-trained athletes can absolutely go up to like 2 hours and not see a decline in performance with both not eating beforehand or during. 2 hours seems to be about the breaking point though. And I think that, research definitely supports that carbs per hour, once you hit about the hour to 90-minute mark, do improve performance in research. This is in non-keto adapted athletes. And then I would say just working with people, absolutely people tend to be able to push themselves better with carbs, somewhere in there, 90 minutes, 2 hours. It depends on how well trained the athlete is. So for someone like Larry, who sounds to be really well trained, I think beyond 2 hours, maybe you feel fine, but maybe you could push yourself even harder and end even stronger with fuel, like I outline in the other podcasts in my book, the things like that. But then again, you know what? Some people can go forever without it. What can I say? They feel good and they do well. So I don't think physiologically, when I think through physiologically what your body is doing and what it's burning, and especially if you don't have a lot of fat stores and that sort of thing, I think that the research and my experience stands to say that carbs will help, or fuel will help after that 2 hour mark. It will also help you recover well too. He talked about not being that hungry and having to force himself to eat right afterwards. Couple things there is I think you should force yourself to eat after a hard workout. I think that the evidence is there that you will recover better, that you will restore glycogen stores and improve muscle recovery and repair with fuel immediately afterwards. Sometimes hunger is masked and you don't feel as hungry if you're dehydrated. So make sure that that's not the issue, that you're not allowing yourself to get too dehydrated. If you're drinking during and after, remember that you do need the electrolytes there too to truly hydrate yourself, because you're losing both fluid and electrolytes. So I would say that even though I think that people can get away with not fueling before and during, I do recommend doing your very best to always recover. The other thing I've seen a lot with athletes who are very well trained and can just kind of go, whether they're toughing it out or they are just so well trained that they don't notice deficiencies in energy, is that a lot of times these same people will be very hungry in the evening and feel kind of low energy. It usually hits, like if they work out in the morning, low energy will hit kind of mid-afternoon, and then they will be very hungry in the evening. Whether or not they eat because of the hunger is a different story. Some of these people are just very disciplined. Physiologically speaking, I think that fuel is definitely better for you and will help you with performance and will just help your body overall if you get it during the day. So go ahead and make yourself kind of eat during the day, and then lightening up at night is still fine. So hopefully I've answered that. I think there's so much room for individual variances. Whenever I talk and try to speak to a general audience like this, it's going to be, kind of what I've seen overall, but there's always going to be individual things. And if you're healthy and you're not eating all through the night and you're still not hungry in the morning, then hey, that's just kind of how your body works. And everyone is a little bit different, and it's okay to kind of have a study of one of yourself. And as long as you're happy with your performance and your health and everything else, then I think it's fine. And if I worked with you on an individual basis, I have a client right now who we just, have established up to 2 hours. He just doesn't need anything. And, it's not worth caring or worrying about because he finishes strong. He recovers well. Everything is fine. And that's going to be part of how well trained he and Larry are. So yeah. Anything to add to that one, Ben?
No.
Covered it. Okay.
Other than to say thank you, Larry, for listening. I know I've seen his name before, so I have a feeling he's been around for a long time. So I appreciate Larry listening and sending an email. Yeah, me too. And keep it up, man. That's 2 hours a day. That's it's pretty consistent. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. That's a lot. I think it's awesome. Consistently. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got something on Facebook from Andy who says that he wanted to know more about injury recovery for the aging mountain biker, which is like all I talk about. So this is a great one for me. He just had a broken wrist and 11 stitches and a broken rib. It sounds like 3 different crashes this year. That sucks. I hear you. 48 and doesn't bounce back as much as he used to. So Andy, a few things here. I would definitely go back if you start right after, we took a break after I tore my ACL because I was like out of it and mad and not doing stuff. So I tore my ACL on I think it was January 29th of 2017. So about 6 weeks later is when we started talking about it on Mountain Bike Radio. But I went through a few different things, and some things are appropriate more for the healing stage, and then some things are more appropriate for just always. He asked specifically about keeping his joints healthy as possible as he aged. So in the healing stage, definitely I'm going to recommend more vitamin D, calcium, and magnesium when we're talking about joints and bones. I always recommend magnesium, and then the other two are kind of based individual as I look at someone's diet and what they might need. But those ones are going to be important. Also, we see more healing with extra vitamin C at the time, like 500 milligrams per day. So if you go back and listen to those, we talk more in depth about amounts and what I was taking and that sort of thing. Anytime you're healing, you also want adequate protein in your diet, and you don't want to be in a calorie deficit. So it's a little bit of a balance because you might not be doing everything you're normally doing. So you don't want to overeat, but you still do need to eat consistently. And then also emphasize protein at your meals in order to get enough protein for healing. Then in just a more general sense, all the time for my joints, I'm taking turmeric and ginger. I talk about those a ton. I just saw something else today about turmeric helping with lowering LDL cholesterol. And that was used at the same time when sterols and stanols from plants were used, but it lowered LDL cholesterol with and without these other things, at least a small amount. I just can't even... There's no end to what some of these amazing nutrients will do in your body. And turmeric is probably one of the most. It's just like every system can benefit from it. So I'm going to take turmeric for probably the rest of my life. And, all these different things, I can definitely feel a reduction in pain. And even right after surgery,
I've talked about before, and I'm not here for a competition on like who got off of painkillers sooner. I know people can kind of get into that. And I was never trying to be like tough girl right after my surgery, because as I've talked about before, my second day after surgery was right up there beyond childbirth for me. It was nasty. But I think by the next day or the day after that, I was completely off painkillers, and I was using turmeric and ginger. And if I missed a dose, I could tell. They're that potent. And I have so many, I bet I've gotten, I don't know, between 30 and 50 emails ever since I started talking about joints and turmeric and ginger, with people saying, I've had to pop Advil for like years, and now I don't, because I take turmeric every day and my knees feel great. It's amazing. So I'm taking those two. I probably will for the rest of my life. One like 500 milligrams per day all the time. And then if I'm actually in pain because of something like this, I bumped it up to 1,000 milligrams each per day. I also started taking gelatin. So gelatin, and I'm sorry for everyone who does not like it when I talk about eating.
You know what?
What? What's that?
Yeah, they're gonna stop listening anyway. If they're angry about animal products, there is, what was that podcast you said? The no meat
athlete is a great podcast, and a great for anyone who's but I work with a lot of vegan and vegetarian athletes, but some people are truly offended that I eat meat or use animal products. So then that's where they should go, is no meat athlete. It's great. I think he does a really good job, and he does a really good job of making it like, hey, this is not like the end all be all of who you should be friends with, and who you should talk to is only people who don't eat animal products. But there are some people who are truly offended. So I'm sending you over there. But for people who can work with me, and I work with vegetarians all the time, and we talk about the good and the bad and what, deficiencies there might be and what things they do better, then that's fine. But I will say that I did use gelatin. Gelatin is made from bones and hooves and all kinds of nasty parts of animals. And as a meat eater, even that scratches me a bit.
It's not nasty. It's essential building blocks in life.
That's right.
All that in between space that brings all the joints and everything together, that should be used in everything you do, instead of just cutting out the chicken breast and throwing the rest away. Like, we're using it.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a better, more sustainable thing when someone uses a whole animal. I only say nasty is because when I think of hooves and what those hooves are stepping in,
I know.
That
I'm just being a dick.
But I agree. The fact that we don't eat very many, bones and that sort of thing, or make bone broth and things like that, like other traditional foods that people used before us, there is a place for this. And so I used gelatin for about the first 3 months post-op and post-injury, I should say. But I've recently switched to collagen, and collagen is just a little bit more broken down. And the reason is because gelatin's a little bit hard to use. It gels things up and makes them have a weird texture. And then it also has a weird taste, even in a smoothie. It was hard to cover up. Whereas collagen is it just dissolves right into my coffee. I can't even taste it. It's awesome. The research on this one is mixed. There's some research that shows that it really does help with joints and rebuilding collagen in your own body and that sort of thing, and some that says it doesn't. For me, it's a protein source, and for the money, it's cheaper than like whey and other powders. So for me, I think it's worth its money just for that. And then if it does do some miracle magic in my joints, then even better. But it does have a very specific amino acid profile. So amino acids are the building block of protein that's different than like meat or other proteins. So if I can get more variation into my body with amino acids, the better to me. So that's why I'm continue to use it regardless of the research that is back and forth. So yeah, and I use one called Great Lakes Gelatin Collagen Hydrolysate. So those are what I'm using for that one, Andy, and I hope that helps. Anything on that one?
No, that's good. All
right. For Rod, he asked me to talk about natural supplements for performance. I want to do a whole podcast on this one for you, Rod, instead of just talking about it now. But I will run through some of the ones that we've talked about before and what I'll talk about on an upcoming podcast, as long as Ben's down with that. So he asked, what are my thoughts on beets, peppermint oil, etc.? So I'll start there. Beets and beetroot juice. We did a whole podcast, right? Ben, sometimes I confuse myself with my blog and the podcast. But didn't we? Miracle Juice? It was either last year or the year before.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to dig it up.
I think we did, Rod. And if not, you can search until we do this whole podcast again. If you want an answer now, on Fuel Right blog, you can. And the easiest way to search my blog, honestly, is to type into Google Fuel Right blog and then whatever you're looking for. It's better than the search engine within my website, unfortunately. Something I need to fix.
Go to the show notes.
Or go to the show notes. Yeah. So if I'm like 90% positive we did a show, and I think we called it Miracle Juice. So there's podcast, and then there's also a blog on this. So you'll get my thoughts and my regimen for using beetroot juice, beetroot powder, or the not supplements, but the products that are out there. There's a few still that are either pills or gels or powders that you can take. And I'm for it. I've seen great results with using beetroot. It's hard to say, I'm not an athlete who's like hooked onto a treadmill, breathing into something where someone can say for sure this is happening or not. But I can tell you that anecdotally, I've seen improvements using beetroot, and so have some of my clients as well. Next one, peppermint oil. I'm a fan of essential oils, and peppermint is definitely one that's great for athletes. One thing that peppermint oil does is that it's like a bronchodilator. So it improves your ability to breathe and kind of opens up your lungs. Also, if you have a cold, it can just open up your face. So like your sinuses and your whole, all those cavities, if you feel plugged up. So the thing with peppermint oil, though, is if you're using essential oils and you're ingesting them, you definitely want them to be a really high quality oil. I used doTERRA. And I think you can even get doTERRA now on Amazon, but I've used that peppermint oil right under my tongue, or doTERRA also makes these little peppermint oil beads. So they're these little tiny baby capsules that I've used before runs. You don't want to use them. You don't want to use peppermint oil just constantly though. And the reason is there's some evidence, and, maybe before our podcast, I'll look into this research a little bit more, but there is some evidence that it can mess with testosterone if you take too much. And that's like the last thing you want as an athlete. So, use peppermint oil before something big, before you really want to do well, or if you have a cold, but don't use it for every training would be my recommendation at this point. But yeah, I definitely, it just feels good. It opens everything up. Like, you can just tell a difference in your mouth and nose and lungs after you taste it or take it. The other thing is you don't want to ingest essential oils too much, because if they get into your gut, so it's not like under your tongue and into your bloodstream, but into your gut, since a lot of them are so high in antibacterial and antiviral, it may mess with the healthy bacteria in your gut. That's another place for research, and for me to do more research on it and see what's out there and see if that research is even available. So that's peppermint oil. Next one I would say is beta alanine. We did a whole podcast on this. I know it. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, we did.
But look up beta alanine, and you'll see that that's an amino acid that specifically, we're not just talking about like recovery. We're talking about performance enhancement. There you go. Beta alanine. The next one would be caffeine. We definitely did a whole podcast on this. I saw some forum. I was like, my name came up like as the dietitian who loves caffeine. I was like, oh my God.
Caffeine pills.
Yeah, because I actually take the pills, not just like a natural coffee.
And then I was rambling off on some Saved by the Bell where Jessie Spano was hooked on caffeine pills. And then she finally hits rock bottom, and there's no time. There's never any time. Right.
And your whole life crumbles in front of you. Yeah. So I take caffeine pills. I went skiing uphill this morning, and I took a caffeine pill before I did it. So, yeah, I see nothing wrong with that in small amounts. You don't want to overdo those, obviously, for lots of different reasons. And, the only reason I take pills instead of just drinking coffee is coffee. If I'm going to run or bike or ski right after I drink coffee, it's just a little too sour in my stomach. It messes with me a little bit. So that's why I take those pills then on very long things like, I shouldn't say very, but like over 4 hours or 5 hours. I'll take them throughout. A lot of products now have caffeine in them, whether it's a drink or a gel or whatever. And so you can get all the information on that caffeine podcast. But generally, I average about 100 milligrams per hour if I'm going to use it consistently. There is a lot of research behind this showing improved endurance, improved stamina, improved power, improved all kinds of things. this is well researched, and this one's not a fluke at all. Caffeine does amazing things in your body that way. Also, it can reduce your sense of effort mentally, which can be a kind of a big deal on a long one. The last
Can I jump in here?
Yes.
Can I jump in here before you get to the last one?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I want to discuss further in 2018, 19. I don't really care. I'm not big on New Year's resolutions. Something I do want to talk about that's further to this, maybe kind of this related to the caffeine discussion, are mushrooms.
Yes.
So that's another thing that's coming quickly. Like, it's the tip of the iceberg's always been there.
Right.
But there's a lot more discussion. I notice weekly there's more discussion about, well, the separate to that is like microdosing with other weird stuff and all, that whole discussion.
Right. You're talking about like cordyceps and mushroom teas and things like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what I was going to say is there's a lot of different options. So like lion's mane, for example, is one that like gets me I get fired. I hate to say fired up because that's Tim Ferriss's commercial is like, oh, I get so fired up, like whatever.
How about
so to that there's Four Sigmatic. I just got some of that Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
Because it's like $13 or $12 or whatever for basically it's like $1 a pack, I think. And I'll put a link in the show notes too.
The Magic 7 is one I've worked with clients.
Magic 7.
Yeah, something like that. Magic something 7. That's one weird thing about mushrooms is they get all weirded out, like their crazy names. But I will tell you that there are some naturopaths.
Thrive 6?
What's it?
Thrive 6?
Mm-mm. I'll send you the link.
No, Magic 7.
Magic, I don't know. I'll send you. But there are some naturopathic doctors who will really use cordyceps and mushrooms for testosterone levels too. And that comes up a lot with me because I work with a lot of male athletes who kind of push themselves with endurance to that brink where they're actually hurting their hormone balance. So, and then they come to me and then we'd have to try to figure it out. And that's a hard path to undo. But that is one thing that we've used in the past. So that one. Can you think of any more before I do my last one?
No, that's
good.
I mean, I just wanted to bring that up like as an option. So there's several different mushrooms that get involved with that. So I want to discuss that further at some point. Yeah, but that's something else.
This whole natural supplement performance enhancement, I think, would be a good one. And I actually want to use the mushroom tea before we do that because I always like to.
Cool.
Most all these other things I've used. I guess all of them I have. Yeah. The caffeine chronically, apparently, every day.
Yeah. If they put mushrooms in pills, you're in.
I'm in. Gosh, no. I'm like a whole food person. It's only the caffeine. It really is only the caffeine. And the peppermint oil, I guess. But this last one, this will bring me back right on the path to wellness. And it's not a supplement, but sleep. Sleep is a performance enhancer. And there's all these studies that show professional athletes in the research with when they've had enough sleep and they haven't, or had a nap and they haven't. And there's all kinds of things, reaction time. And we all know this, but a lot of times I think as endurance athletes, we power through sleep. And we talked a bit about this on the Brain podcast, but we power through as long as you can get through, as long as you can, take caffeine like I do or drink some coffee, whatever, and get through your day. Then what does it matter really how much sleep you got? But endurance, power, reaction time, all these things for athletes are improved with adequate sleep. So I will put that right up there with natural performance enhancers, even though it's not a supplement. And it's free, saving you money by enhancing your performance with free things.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. There's two more. Okay. So Nicole asked, what to eat to make you not so hungry? Training has been cut in the off season and and the pounds are packing on and I'm hungry all the time. Okay. So I hear you, Nicole. Ben and I were just talking about this because I'm small. I'm like, I've mentioned this. I'm like weirdly small for an adult. I'm like 5'0" and like 105 pounds.
Weirdly small.
And it's funny, whenever I run the numbers for someone who's my size, it's like, dang, you just don't burn very many calories. It's super unfair. So I hear you, like how to not be so hungry, but not overeat a whole bunch of calories and that sort of thing. A few things I will point to here. One is that pattern of eating is pretty important. So I would recommend having decent balanced meals. And if you need snacks in between, but snacks does not mean snacky food and it doesn't mean grazing. It means like one-time eating in between your meals. The more bang you can get for your buck here with calories, the better. So something like a hard-boiled egg is great as far as filling you up a bit without having very many calories in it because it's got protein. An apple because it's got fiber. Those will tend to fill you up a little bit more than something that's more processed. And I think I know who this is. So I know you know that and you're a healthy eater. So first of all, I would talk about the pattern of eating and then lighter at night when you don't need as much. So that's the whole point is you get more calories and more nutrients during the day and then you don't need so much at night. The other thing is to think about volume. There's a whole study and books are written about the volume of your food and how this changes your appetite. And it's all about hormones. When your stomach is stretched because of volume, it signals to your brain that you've had enough to eat. And whether the calories are there or not, signals to your brain that you've had enough to eat. And it tells your body that you are no longer hungry. So within the thought that you still, I'm not telling you to get inadequate amount of calories, but within the amount of calories you're trying to get or the amount of food, think of things with more volume. Something like soups with a lot of broth have a lot of volume. Chia is great because you can I have a good recipe for chia pudding, which is just awesome. And chia absorbs water and expands in it. So it makes a bigger volume. Things with fiber tend to do the same. So that's what I would recommend is fiber, protein, and volume from things like chia or fluids at every meal to help. One other really interesting one is that chili and spicy things tend to turn off hunger. So if the more you eat like a spicy, whether you're adding like crushed red pepper to it or real chilies or salsa, it will tend to decrease hunger in people. So that's another one. So anything there, Ben?
You could put gelatin in your smoothie and apparently that makes it all bigger. Ugh.
Makes it so you have to like chew your smoothie. That last drink where the gelatin had like settled into my smoothie, you seriously have to get a spoon and like choke it down. Collagen, not so much, but yeah, that is true too. Like anything that gels, chia is a little bit more palatable to me than the gelatin, but yeah, those all help because they do the same in your stomach too. The fluids in your GI tract kind of swell up as well, and that's what helps fibers and gelatins make you full. All right, the last one is from Clinton, and he's asking me about supplements. And, I would actually like to do a podcast all on current supplements too, because I think the last time we did it was towards the beginning of us doing the Apex podcast. And so, products and things have changed in the last 5 years. So might as well talk about new products. But he's asking me kind of like, what do I consider when I'm looking for a supplement? And like, what are keywords or ingredients? And so I separate, just like eating, daily nutrition and training nutrition. There's daily supplements as far as vitamins and minerals and training nutrition supplements. And so just for a quick rundown, Clinton, I would say for most all clients I work with, I'm looking for a multivitamin, and I know that's controversial, highly controversial, but a multivitamin. I want extra magnesium, adequate vitamin D, and then fish oil. So what that looks like to me is I like food-based multivitamins. I just think that they're going to be more bioavailable, which means they absorb better and assimilate into your body better and do a better job. The reason I think that athletes need, especially athletes who are trying to maintain a low body weight, need a multivitamin is we just don't get enough of certain things. But when you get them in a multivitamin, they're kind of balanced with other things. So you don't overdo some. One thing that I've seen with working with men who want to maintain testosterone levels is copper and zinc can help, and a lot of good multivitamins. I generally recommend the Rainbow Light once daily. That one has the right amount of copper and zinc in the men's formulation. So things like that you might not think about, but that are just kind of helping your body along because you're burning so much and you're putting yourself at risk of inadequacies are worth it to me. There's not a ton of downside to these multivitamins. I know that there's like research that says they don't do anything, but just remember that all that research is in sedentary populations. So that just falls by the wayside when I'm talking to athletes. So that's where I'm going to start. Magnesium. I think all athletes need 400 milligrams per day in supplements during on seasons. We did a whole podcast on magnesium and how all kinds of times overtraining and chronic fatigue is just a magnesium deficiency. So 200 milligrams via supplement year round. Some multivitamins will have that. Bump that up to 400 milligrams during on seasons. You do want to split that dose 200 and 200 because that can give you loose stools, is one problem with magnesium. The next one, vitamin D. I like to see during the fall and winter 1,000 to 2,000 IUs per day, unless you live closer to the equator than like Georgia, or Atlanta. I don't know my geography down there very good. But anyway, one of those. If you're anywhere north of that, you're not getting enough direct sunlight during the fall and winter. And so that can help. And vitamin D is just important for a whole bunch of things. The last one is fish oil. If you're not eating 12 ounces of fatty fish per week, then I'm going to recommend fish oil. So those are the main ones that I recommend year round, or not year round, but in daily nutrition. Training nutrition, first that magnesium is bumped up. And then I'm going to recommend turmeric and ginger for just joint health. And that really should be kicked over to daily nutrition because just for everyone, that's healthy. So sorry for the confusion. Turmeric and ginger, 500 milligrams a piece, unless you're just eating a whole bunch of ginger and turmeric. And then the other ones I use in training are the amino acids. So I use L-glutamine and BCAAs a lot. And then when I'm trying to kick up the training nutrition during an on-season, the beta-alanine. So that was supposed to sound really simple and easy and not like I use very many supplements, and ended up sounding long and more complicated. So that's what you got.
So here's the solution.
Yeah. Tell me the solution.
Here's the solution is I'm going to put them in the show notes, and I will put a link in there to a website called kit.com. And what I started doing on this kit.com is it's a really slick way to put out the related items that we talk about in episodes. So there's a few episodes out there right now that were heavy in links that we could link things to. But it's essentially a Pinterest for all the things that we talk about in an episode. So it's a social way. Other people can kind of search around and see what's out there. But anyhow, so I set up a specific kit on kit.com if you type in mountain bike radio. But for each episode, I've been putting those together. So like a kit for this episode will include all these items that you talked about. So branched chain amino acids, fish oil, your vitamin D, magnesium, stuff you recommend. I'll have the links on there. And surprise, surprise, some of those will be affiliate links and some won't. Depends whether or not I can make them or I can find them, or what you recommend is available through one of them. If it is, please just use that. That's awesome. It helps. But if not, no big deal. Like you'll see on some of the episodes, there are ones where I just link it to the product website because that's where you find it. Anyhow, so I started doing that, and kit.com is a really slick way of doing that. So check the show notes, click on I'll put, find it on Kit, or go to our kit.com, something like that. But just click on that and it'll take you that, and you can scroll through other episodes too from there. Yeah.
And hopefully that just makes it easier for everyone. And Clinton, I'm reading your question again, and I just want to make sure I answered it. So the words I'm looking for with the multivitamin, I'm looking for food-based. With the other ones, I'm generally looking for just as few ingredients as possible. Specifically with the amino acids, I don't like stacked amino acids, which, in bodybuilding world, it's like when they put the right amount of this amino acid with that amino acid. My problem with that is for endurance, we want different amounts at different times. And I like to have a single amino acid with nothing else, like L-glutamine, and that's it. No colorings, no flavorings. Usually I'm adding it to like a drink. So the last thing I want is like a berry flavored L-glutamine that I'm about to add to my chocolate milk. So I want those to be very plain. And they're not going to taste good by themselves. But in general, people are adding them to other things, or can just take a quick shot of it in water. So the less ingredients, the better. And then with that, multivitamin food-based is what I'm looking for. So hopefully I answered his question. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess if you do have any follow-up questions, Clinton or Larry or any of the others.
Anyone. Nicole. Yep.
You can always send us an email. The more we get, the more you will answer.
Yeah. And it helps with knowing what you all want to hear in podcasts and kind of what's on your radar, not just on ours. So, cool. Yeah, that's it.
All right. So listeners, thank you very much. We really appreciate all of the questions, all the downloads. If you like what you hear, please go to wherever you listen and go to the little all the way to the right number of stars and hit that. It's probably going to be five. So if you like it, hit 5. If you really don't like what you just heard and you listen to all 45 minutes, see you later. And I don't know what else to say, but it would be really helpful. Leave a review. Exactly. It would be really helpful for you to use the affiliate link, do your shopping there, and to leave us a review. You're getting this for free. So the least I could do is just beg you to do something in exchange for that. All right. Is that cool? All right. So we're cool. Kelli, any questions for Kelli? You can go to KE or send an email to KELLI@apexnutritionllc.com. Go to apexnutritionllc.com. You can Google Fuel Right blog or just go to the show notes. And that's about it.
Find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Strava. I try to keep it kind of adventure oriented on Strava, just out there having fun, doing what I love. So I love to connect with other athletes in all those places.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So thank you for listening, everyone. And until the next episode of the Apex Nutrition Podcast, have a good day. That's it. See ya.
Make 2018 your best life ever.
Exactly. All right. Perfect. See you guys later. Thank you.
See ya.